Good afternoon, collectors and friends. Welcome to Trading Card Therapy, episode number 92. I'm your host, the Dr. Leighton Sheldon, and I am so grateful to be here today. Thank you to each and every one of you who decided to join us for today's Trading Card Therapy podcast. If you enjoy just listening to audio components of this type of content, you could do so on Spotify and Apple and wherever you enjoy your favorite podcasts. But of course, to me, and I'm partial to this because I'm a collector myself, I personally enjoy hobby type podcasts on YouTube. And the reason being is I like to see if someone's showing off some cards. Hint, hint. I'll be showing off some cards in just a minute or so. We have a tremendous guest in store for you folks today. I'm so appreciative of him taking his time to talk to us in just a few minutes. Before we bring him on, I wanted to show you folks just a couple recent pickups that I've made from eBay. Yes, that's right, from eBay. And they're specifically around the pre-war time period. The first one is an E92 Chief Bender from the Tough Dockman set. We're really just into like this whole candy card era and the backs in particular. These cards are just much more difficult to find really in any condition than their counterpart tobacco cards like the T206s. Here is one of my favorite cards in the E96 set. I just really like the way that they set Hugh Jennings against that beautiful green and blue background. I surmise that's the sky above, but who knows? And the back, as you can see, is really the reason why I graded a 1.5 with some damage there. But, to me, this just has a fantastic eye appeal for the grade of 1.5. And once again, from that, candy card era from the early 1900s. This one's a little bit later as it's an exhibit. This is a 1921 exhibit of Tris Speaker. This is the first year that they made exhibit cards. And I'm going to take you through my rationale for each of these cards, and then we're going to bring on our guest. So with these particular cards, I really like that not only are they from a wonderful time period, but they also are at a great price point. So this card in particular was about $275. And if you look up what a T206 Chief Bender portrait card in a 1.5 will cost you, believe it or not, it'll cost you about $275. I'm not suggesting that this is a better investment than the T206. I'm merely saying as a collector, if you're feeling stuck, if you're feeling a little bored, go on eBay and check out the e-cards. Some of them are actually quite affordable compared to their tobacco card counterparts, and in some cases really are just beautiful cards. I mean, I love this particular variation of Hugh Jennings from the E96 set. And the Tris Speaker cost about $400. My rationale with this is, if you take a look at the 21 exhibit set, apologize for the glare, on the upper or in the upper echelon of that set is Babe Ruth, right, and Walter Johnson and Ty Cobb. And those cards, for the most part, set you back thousands of dollars depending on the grade. And this is a nice middle of the road 4.5, and it cost about $400 delivered. So I thought the value was really good considering the type of player that Tris Speaker was. Folks, I would love to hear from you in the comments. Let me know about e-cards. Do you think that they are undervalued compared to their tobacco card counterparts? Or you just think that they're so difficult to find and sets are so hard to put together that may be the reason why they're, not necessarily appreciated as far as the value is concerned. Would love to hear each and every one of your thoughts in the comments below. Let us know. So, folks, we are now going to bring on our guest for this week. It is a very accomplished gentleman in the world of business. In our hobby, you might know him as the founder of Arena Club. His name is Brian Lee, and I am so grateful for you joining us today. So can you share a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey in those early days, maybe post-college, and what things were like with you in your world?
No, absolutely. So, when I was in college, I went to UCLA for undergrad, and I was that kid who just didn't know what they wanted to do yet. I was just still finding my way, finding what I was interested in and so forth. And, someone had told me once that, going to law school is not a bad thing. It's a good thing. And you could, use that degree and you'll always have a living. And I'm like, oh, well, maybe I'll go to law school. So I was at UCLA. I only applied to one law school. I applied to UCLA Law School, and fortunately I got in. And so that gave me 3 more years to decide what to do. But then the funniest thing happens is that once you go to law school, you're like, all your friends start getting jobs at law firms, and you're like, well, maybe I should do that too. So I ended up working at Skadden Arps in the tax department. It was a New York-based firm, and I really enjoyed working there. I enjoyed the partners I worked with, and I reported to, and everything else. But I wasn't getting as much fulfillment as I would have liked out of the work, and so decided to kind of split off and start my own company. Started a company with a friend of mine, a couple of friends of mine, called LegalZoom.com out of my condo. This is back in 1998, 99 timeframe. So this is a while ago. This is when the internet was still relatively, nascent. And so we started LegalZoom, couldn't raise any capital for it. No one would give us money because it was right during a pretty sketchy period of online, and the e-commerce bust and or .com bust and everything else was happening around that time frame. So it was tough to raise capital, but we started it anyway. We just kept growing it. That was my first company. We ended up taking that company public, and it's going quite well. It's one of the largest legal service companies in the country now, and proud of what we built and the brand that we built. But the second company I started was called ShoeDazzle. So ShoeDazzle, I started that with my wife and Kim Kardashian, and kind of grew that one very, very quickly. And we sold that one to a company called Textile down here in Los Angeles. And then my third company I started was called The Honest Company, and I started that one with Jessica Alba, and we took that one public as well. So it was a great IPO and great exit for me. But yeah, it's honestly, a lot of companies are struggling in the public markets right now, and I'm very hopeful that they're going to turn around. They're looking really good. Honestly, they're looking like a very positive projection for where they're headed. So feeling good about the Honest Company, and then that gave me the confidence to go start my fourth company, which is Arena Club. And so this is my fourth company, and believe it or not, it's the company that's nearest and dearest to my heart. It really is. Like am I talking too much, Leighton?
No, please. You're
Okay.
doing. I'm having a blast, and my mind is, of course, working a million miles a minute. Like, oh my god, I have this question, but please, you're
Yeah.
doing great, and I'm enjoying it very much.
No, so I just want to say that, but you know that card collecting has always been a passion of mine, a hobby of mine. And I remember, like, way back in the day, when you're young, you would ask, older, wiser people, like, what should I do for like my career? What should I do? And they would tell you stuff like, follow your passion, follow your dreams. And you're like, yeah, right. Okay. Like, I got student loans to pay. I've got a car lease payment that I have to make. Like, yeah, I'll follow my passion someday. But I understand it now, because now that I'm working on something that I'm actually truly passionate about, the actual product, it doesn't feel like work. It really doesn't. Like, every day is a joy for me. It's like, I can't believe I go to card shows for a living. I can't believe it's like I'm surrounded with card buyers and traders, and it's an amazing feeling just being immersed into this world at full time and just working and building this. Because look, I was always passionate about the missions of the companies that I started. So even with LegalZoom, affordable legal services for everyone, or ShoeDazzle, making women feel beautiful for a small price per month, and for shoes, and even with the Honest Company and non-toxic baby products, and healthier organic products. I felt great about all of it, but was I truly passionate about diapers? Not really. Was I passionate about high heels? Nah. Was I passionate about divorce documents? Not really. But this is the first time, honestly, that I'm truly passionate about the actual product, and I'm having the best time building this business.
We're going to dive into Arena Club in just a minute, and I have so many questions about Arena Club. But before we do, what I want to try to do is, and you said you have children, and you mentioned I think you have a 16-year-old boy and maybe some other kids as well. And my son's out there, but Brian, I know, God willing, that there's going to be some other young boys and girls, young men and women that might listen to this, and they're thinking about whether it be they're going to try to get into a hobby that is right now something part-time for them, and they're thinking about taking that move,
Mm-hmm.
or they're hearing someone like yourself who is obviously a successful entrepreneur and has proven that time and time again. So I wanted to take a moment before we really nerd out on the card end of things with Arena Club, if we could try to offer some advice from your standpoint, from your journey. What happened for you that you said, I've worked at, I forgot the name of the company, and I apologize, in New York. But you then just dove into the deep end of the pool and said, hey, I'm going to go out on my own. Could you take us through some of the thinking and maybe some of the struggles? And even as you suggested with LegalZoom, which of course is a household name today, you said in the beginning that you weren't able to raise any money. So I'd like to try to encourage folks out there with your story about how you fought through, about some of the things that you did along your journey that made today an Arena Club and this passion that clearly you've had since probably Steve Garvey days, which we'll get back to in just a minute. Hopefully I didn't throw too much out there at you, but I want to try to share something from your journey that really stuck out to you that might be a valuable lesson to folks listening.
Yeah, I guess the main thing about kind of setting off on your own, being an entrepreneur, is you just got to do it for yourself, and you can't wait. Stop waiting. I think that's the number one thing. It's people tell themselves, like, I'm going to be an entrepreneur someday. I'm going to go start my own company someday. And my answer to them is always that today, someday is now. It should have been yesterday, right? Because if you really do feel that you want to go start something and build something, no one's going to build it for you, right? No one is ever going to just show up on your doorstep and say, you know what, here's your bucket of success. Congratulations. It doesn't happen that way. You have to make the jump. And that's the hardest part about being an entrepreneur, is actually going away from safety, that safety net of a job or whatever that might be, and actually going into the unknown, right? It's like, and oftentimes being an entrepreneur, it's like, it's hard. It's really hard. It's when you don't know, how you're going to, put food on the table. It's hard. It's a difficult proposition, but if it works, it's like, it's a whole new world, right? If it works, and it doesn't have to work necessarily in terms of, I'm taking this company public for billions of dollars. I'm saying, so long as you're getting what you need out of that career, that entrepreneurial journey, you're good. Congratulations. And so whenever I meet an entrepreneur, it's like, I have utmost respect for them because I know how hard it is. It's like, it's ups and downs and all arounds. It's always a roller coaster. It's never up and to the right forever, ever. Right. And so you're just going to have to keep going and believe in what you're working on, and just, again, outwork everybody. Right. I know it's like, that's another thing. It's just, you hear these entrepreneurs. This is the worst thing you could hear from someone saying, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. It's like, I want to be an entrepreneur because I want work-life balance. It's like, no.
Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh at you. I'm laughing with you because as an entrepreneur myself, I know that that's not really possible.
It's not possible, especially the earliest days, especially the first 3, 4, 5 years as you're building that startup. You're all in. You got to be all in, right? Everything else takes second place, right? It's if you don't put in every ounce of your effort into building something, it's not going to work. It's just not. It's like the only way it's going to work is if you go all in and you give it the best shot you could give it, right? And I don't think a lot of folks truly understand that, right? They think, okay, I'm just going to put in a few hours here or there, and I'm going to work from home, and it's just completely dispersed workforce all the time, and we're going to check in and work an hour or two a day. Doesn't work.
Doesn't exist.
It doesn't work. Yeah.
I'm sure you found across the myriad of companies that you've started, right? So folks, whether it be, and I don't know what you drive, so whether it be it's your money or your home or your car, or in my case, let's say cards, folks often look at that said asset and they don't see anything beyond that. They don't see the pain, the sacrifice, the suffering, as you said, the unknown. And then I really like what you had said, because it didn't matter if someone had started a public company or if it was just someone working from their home. I feel the same, that when I meet a fellow entrepreneur, they could just be running a bake shop from their fourth bedroom in their home. But
Right.
I know what that takes to be committed day in and day out, not 5 days a week, but 7. Not saying you have to work full time 7 days a week around the clock, but in terms of where it is in your brain, it's most certainly active in your mind and your thoughts.
Yeah. 100%. It's like it doesn't go away from you. It's like you live and breathe it. And that's just being an entrepreneur.
Very much so. So before we go into Arena Club, I have an interesting question, which I didn't have jotted down prior to us getting together, but I'm curious the way and the conviction you talk about having a passion for Arena Club. I'm super excited to explore, but I'm curious because you mentioned once or twice your other companies clearly were successful and clearly had a mission that made a difference in people's lives. But it seems like you may have not been as passionate about it. So I'm curious for the folks out there who are looking to get into a new business for themselves, or maybe they're going to be signing on with a new company that's smaller. How did you figure out for yourself how to keep your head down, work hard, even though it wasn't maybe your true love of baseball cards?
Part of it is I think it was instilled in me at a very young age to just work hard. It was an immigrant mentality. My parents came here to America with nothing, literally nothing. They came out to from Korea with $500, 2 pieces of luggage, me and my older sister, and we settled in San Diego first, and then just kind of and I would watch my dad. My father was an entrepreneur, and I saw him and how hard he worked, right? And the success that he achieved. And it was very strong motivation for me personally. So this is really just my personal journey. But so I think I always realized that, it does take hard work. It takes a lot of concentration, a lot of focus to build something. So that's partly it. But it's also fear. I know that's a little weird to say, but I'm a very fearful person. I don't like to fail. Right? It's fear of failure that really drives me often. And it's more fear of failure almost than it is the victory.
Interesting.
Right? Whatever you define as victory, right?
Sure.
But for me, it's more like I just don't want this to go bad. Right? I want this to work. And then you realize, like, once you start building your business, hopefully and it's successful, that you start looking around and you see all these folks that are part of your team and you're responsible. Right. So I fear that too. I fear like I don't want to disappoint all of my team members. And we got to lead the charge and we got to grow.
You're 100% right, Brian. And you struck a chord with me. I think I communicated with Heidi this, and of course, put something out on social because I was feeling overwhelmed. But, I was in a car accident late last week. Yeah. And when it first happened, of course, I'm in shock. And all that stuff. And thankfully, I'm feeling so much better right now. I'm very grateful for that. And of course, even more grateful that my son wasn't in the car. But as things started to unwind, I realized, and I'm showing a little bit of my fear now, I didn't necessarily have everything lined up in my business the way I'd like. God forbid something happens to me. And so it was a big wake-up call for me. And it's something that we're actually working through right now. And the reason I bring it up in the context that I just did is because I started thinking about all the people that are important in my life. God forbid I left the earth earlier than I'd like. And some of those people happen to be in the offices next door into my building. And they're not just coworkers. John Palomares has been with me for 17 years, Brian. My company is only 20 years old. I'm very proud of that. And I would not be proud if I left the world prematurely once again in a place and everything was not left for them in a way that they could proceed. So I understand what you mean by having a team and feeling that commitment to not only succeed, but that fear of failure, depending on who we are and our makeup, is very strong for us entrepreneurs, Brian.
Yeah. We're right there on the same playing field, Leighton. Really,
very, very much so.
And I'm so happy that you're okay. Honestly,
Thank you.
I heard about your car accident. God bless that everything was fine in the end. But yeah, it definitely puts a different perspective into your life.
Yeah, very much so, and one in which I'm happy to discuss even today and talking about
Yeah.
passion. And so, I think you said this is your fourth company, Arena Club. So let's talk about, before we get into some of the nerdy stuff that I like to talk about with Arena Club. I know it sounds like mission's really important to you. So can you tell the folks out there, when you decided to move forward and incorporate and start Arena Club, what were some of the things you were considering as far as your mission and what you were trying to accomplish for other collectors like myself and like you?
Absolutely. So with Arena Club, I really want to use technology to make the hobby better. That was really what it was. And it was look, all throughout my journey of collecting, I've always had, little issues here or there with the hobby. I'll be honest with you. It's like, it's like and I just wanted to fix things. I wanted to make them better. And I felt like I could. Um, so for example, like even with grading, right? Um, we've all been there, right? We've all sent in cards to get graded and we get them back. And you're like, why did it get a certain score? You just never know. It's like I would send in some cards that I thought would get eights, they come back as nines. I'd send in cards that I thought were tens that would come back at eights. It was just all kind of all over the place for me. And you never knew what you were going to get, and there was never an explanation. And so I remember, this is way long ago, like 4 or 5 years ago. I called a friend of mine. Her name is Gia Lee, and she's a professor at Stanford. She was very early at Google and Snapchat, doing computer vision AI work. And I called her and I said, Gia, here's how a card is graded. Do you think a computer could grade a card, with the right training and AI? And she did some research and got back to me and said, not only will a computer grade a card, it'll grade a card 1,000 times more accurately than a human eye could grade a card. I said, oh, that sounds interesting.
Very
And I
interesting.
always had that in the back of my head. And then and when it came time to start Arena Club, I actually called her and she helped us build the algorithms for computer vision grading. So that was part one. We kind of use computer vision with some human touch at the end as well. So it's a whole interesting process that we go through to grade cards to make sure that they're as accurate as possible and with as much transparency as possible. Right. So we actually provide grading reports and show you exactly, the flaws that were in your card if you don't score a perfect 10. So that was kind of part one. I just wanted to make the grading better with technology. And then part two was marketplace. I always had issues with all the different marketplaces that I would buy from online, and it got to the point where I stopped buying raw cards online because I just kind of felt like there was a lot of bait and switch. You never knew exactly the quality you were going to get, and so forth. So I'd much rather just buy raw cards at card shops and card shows because I could hold them, I could see them, I could look closely at the corners and the edges and everything else, right? So stop buying raw cards online because I was just burned too many times. And then, yeah, it's like the whole non-shipment, non-payment, loss in the mail, like all the stuff that we've all dealt with over the years. I honestly felt like I could make that better with technology too. And my answer was vaulting and blockchain. And so the way that we built Arena Club was that you would send us your cards, we digitize them. The physical cards go into our vault in Beaverton, Oregon. The digital version gets put on the blockchain. We use Polygon. And then everything you see on Arena Club, I mean, we don't call it this, but this is what they are. They're asset-backed NFTs. This is what they are, because it's a one-to-one relationship between the card that you see and there's a physical version of it, or the
Sure.
physical card in the vault. And so by doing it this way, we basically everything on Arena Club is authenticated either by PSA, Beckett, SGC, any of the top grading companies, or if you send us a raw card, we grade it too, right? So that's basically the system. So everything is authenticated, graded slabs on Arena Club. And then basically, so that got rid of the bait and switch issues, the raw card issue that I always had online. And so that was part of it. And each card trades very quickly at Arena Club if you have them in your showroom, and you don't have to ship them, and you don't have to wait for shipping. You don't have to wait for payment. It's all kind of instant. And I just thought that would be kind of a cool concept for a marketplace. So we launched Arena Club with grading, the marketplace, and then we added the slab packs, which were the repack product that we currently offer. And that's another thing that we wanted to do with technology. And the reason that came about is I was walking through the National, actually, this is a few years ago, in Chicago, and I saw all these vendors selling these little repack products in front of them, my little grab bags, right? And I remember, like, specifically, I remember this one vendor had a sign that said Shohei Ohtani rookie card in one of these bags. And I asked him, I said, which Shohei is it? And his answer truly was, I don't remember. I swear, Leighton, that's what he said. He says, I don't
Talk
remember.
about lack of transparency.
Yeah, right. And I go, and in my head, I'm like, is it the $20 one? Is it the $2 million one? What would you put?
Yeah, like, I kind of would like to know.
Yeah, I kind of would like to know. And then I said, well, what other cards did you put in here? And he says, well, you're just gonna have to find out. And he was kind of annoyed with me. I could tell. He's like, you're just gonna have to find out. I'm like, okay. And as I'm talking to him, this kid comes up and buys one of the bags. And I'm like, oh my goodness, he has no idea what he's even chasing or what he's going to get. And so I just thought, gosh, you could do this so much better, again, online with technology. And the idea behind our repack was we were just going to be fully transparent. We're going to give you a whole checklist of all the cards available at any given time, the odds of possibly getting those cards, what the chase cards are, what the grail cards are, like what you're chasing, and then fully transparent in where the cards are going. So if you know this card was hit, who hit it, which showroom is it in, and you could actually track the card. And so we thought, okay, we could like improve upon this repack products out there, and there's no, and basically the algorithms that we use are foolproof. We use the Fisher-Yates algorithm software as close to random as you could possibly get. And then our algorithms are audited, our software is audited by our accounting firm and our law firm to make sure that that everything is completely buttoned up, because we have to make sure that it's completely randomized. And at any given time, Leighton, there's no way we could even cherry pick who gets which card. That's impossible because thousands of people are on our site at any given time. It's like, and the packs are just opening randomly. Sure. And so there's so that's the way we built the repack system, and it's working. It's going great. And what happened was that the repacks are slab, we call them slab packs. Our slab packs were popular, are still very popular, and it has uplifted the entire community, our ecosystem, right? So it led to more action in our marketplace, led to more people sending in cards to get graded because now they're seeing the value of our grades and so forth. So it's kind of uplifting the entire company, if you will, the entire ecosystem that we're trying to build.
It seems to me the way that you laid everything out so methodically, just like with your other ventures, you really had a mission. It was about the collector journey. Right. And it sounds like you're also open that as more either things happen or change in the hobby, you're going to be focusing on that collector journey. Yeah. So there could be some more exciting features coming in the future for Arena Club as well.
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, I'm having so much fun building this. I want to make this hobby better for everyone through the use of technology. And so anything, the vision that we had when we started Arena Club was anything you could do at a card show, we wanted you to be able to do at Arena Club. You can submit cards for grading. You can buy cards, trade cards, sell cards. You could sit there and meet other collectors. So that's the whole social component of what we kind of built in our community. You can buy cards, you can buy packs of cards or repacks at card shows. So anything you could do there. So, we're even going to go into live at some point, right? So I haven't really talked about this publicly. So you're the first, and I'm announcing it too. So basically, we definitely want to move into the live component of the hobby and offer up kind of live experiential kind of events at Arena Club and so forth to drive even more kind of user engagement and community engagement.
I think that's fantastic, and I'm really excited to see what's going to transpire over the next several months and years over at Arena Club. And, we didn't talk about much prior to you coming on today, but I wanted to share with you my honest assessment of the platform. And the first word that comes to mind is fun. And this isn't just because, Brian, you're on the show. I know, for example, like I get my automated emails, and I like when I get an Arena Club offer. It feels a little bit different than getting an eBay message. And the reason why is, to be clear, I've been on eBay a long time, and they've just they beat me up a lot, right? Fees 1 week, seller policies that are just really challenging. And so, a couple of years ago, our paths crossed, and candidly, the only thing, and this is what we're working on right now at our company, is we have a lack of time. So in other words, there's only one me, but yet there's other people who can facilitate my account. And so what I wanted to share with folks, at least my experience with Arena Club, is if you're just a collector and you have a little time in your hands, just check it out. You don't have to buy anything. You don't have to sell anything. It legitimately is fun. And you might find something different for you that's fun versus myself or for other users, as far as the site itself is concerned. And I also think that there's an opportunity, something that we've been discussing internally here, Brian, that there's an opportunity, if you will, for a company to do some scalable business on there, meaning with grading, with listings, so on and so forth, because of the way that you and your company is embracing technology. And so I'm going to try to figure out a way to funnel you cards more consistently that someone on my team can price using your platform. All the while, to be clear, I'm not going to give up the right to get these emails of the offers because I have fun doing that. And really, that's my best advice for folks that have not yet checked out your site, is do it like you would do anything else in your life. Do it slowly. You're going to find you're probably going to have more fun than you thought on there. And I'm sure, based on the amount of activity you have on your site, if folks have a question, let's just say it's, outside the regular business hours of 9 to 5. It's someone like myself, right? I find that my personal time might be at 9:30 at night. One of my questions for you, Brian, is, let's say you wanted to reach out to a team member. Is there a way to reach out to someone in the evening because you're not quite sure about a particular type of trade that you want to do, or you want to maybe list some cards? What's the best way for folks who want to try to use your platform but may have some questions? What should they do from here?
Well, number one, we try to make it as simple as possible, so every user can get onboarded very quickly. So honestly, it's pretty self-explanatory. We do have a very good FAQ section. If you have any questions, you can ask, and find the answers probably on the FAQs. And in the last resort would be contact our customer service, right? So we have a wonderful customer service team here that can help you through, any issues you might have in onboarding or using the system and enjoying it. And to your point, having fun, right? We want you to have fun. And so definitely, hit the site, try to figure it out. It's pretty self-explanatory, but if you need help, go to the FAQs. If you need even further help, definitely reach out to customer service.
Oh, I appreciate you sharing that. And I know, with you talking about the notion that Arena Club at some point is going to get into the live component of our hobby, I find that very exciting. I don't want to press too much, but is there anything, whether it be Arena Club related, or let's step out of the box and look at it at a macro level, what would you like to see in the hobby, let's say 3 years from today, that's not being done today, whether it be by Arena Club or someone else?
That's a great question, Leighton. And there's quite a few things, but I think the thing that's top of mind for me would definitely be more like more staple shows. I think, like, I love the National. I mean, we all do, right? I mean, but there's also things that they can improve upon. I mean, I know the guys, so I can say that, but yeah, there's definitely things that they can improve on. But I love shows that are that size, right? Because it's like going to Disneyland for
It
me. It's like,
is.
Yeah, I love the local card shows too. Don't get me wrong. I go to a lot of them, but I love these big card shows. I love the Burbank card or West Coast card show now, what they call it. Um, Larger shows. I want to see bigger and bigger and better and more engaging. I thought the Fanatics Fan Fest was awesome in New York. It was so much fun. So kudos to Fanatics for getting that done. I wish they would roll that out to more cities because it was so cool. Um, and have a little bit more of a card focus too, by the way. I thought the fan experiences were amazing. I thought the card collector part could have been done, even in a more fun way. But again, make these card shows big, make them splashy, go compete against Comic Con, like make them true events. So I'd like to see that happen in the hobby. But even through with technology, what I would love to see is every grading company kind of follow the lead of Arena Club and Tag, and some of the companies that are using AI computer vision to help grade cards. Because I do want full transparent grading reports from every card I send in, right? And I'll say that to PSA, Beckett, SGC, any of these guys, CGC, they should all be using computer AI vision so that we're all not left questioning why a card scored a certain way.
I couldn't agree more. In fact, I just graded an E103 Williams Caramel Thai Cobb, and the cost to grade that was $600.
Wow.
I just got the grade today, and I'm not going to share the grade yet because I'm going to do a reveal on social. So
Right.
stay tuned, folks. That's the hook.
Yeah.
But the joking aside, I'll just say it's a lower grade card. From those that follow me on social will know it because it came from a find I made a few months ago. And all they said about the grade was that there was corner wear. Brian, the card is a low grade card. It's creased. There's paper loss missing on the back. And although I appreciate the transparency, I almost feel like the guy or the gal who was grading it, they were doing the notes and then they got a call from their mother. Oh, hey, Mom. Oh, yeah, no. I got lunch today. Don't worry about it. And then they got back to their desk and they just hit save. Because, to me, it's very clear that the thought wasn't complete. So to further your point about transparency, I do believe this because I've been talking to more folks than ever in the last, I would say, 3 months, Brian. There's a lot of this going on. Hey, I have this Jackie Robinson card I bought for $72,000. My first question is, do you think it's a nice 9? I'm like, well, did you look at it? They're like, yeah, but I heard you know. I'm like, just to be clear, I don't have robot eyes. Right. I have regular eyes, but I have a lot of experience with these eyes, make no mistake. And then, of course, their next question is, should I sell it? It's worth $150,000. Well, what's your goal? So if your goal is only money, sounds like you should sell it, right? But if you care about maybe having that card in 20 years or when you're no longer on the earth for your kids and there's only 17 in the pop, you may not be able to rebuy it. So what I'm getting to is it's not just about the transparency of the grading. It's about the marketplace and the information. You were talking about grading and the companies trying to be across the board, PSA, Beckett, as far as the technology. I couldn't agree more. I would love to see a universal set registry.
Yeah.
And if someone fell in love with Beckett because as an 11-year-old, they got the Beckett magazine, it doesn't mean you should pay more for the Beckett cards. That's not what I'm saying. But their cards shouldn't be seen as some bastard child, right? Thanks for laughing. Like a Game of Thrones reference. Because they got graded by Beckett and Beckett's out of favor at the moment. The cards are still real. You may not agree with the grade, but why not use technology to enhance the collector experience to give us the chance to maybe have a universal set registry?
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I'm not trying to say anything negative about the grading companies that exist. I love them all, right? I still send my cards into Beckett and SGC and PSA and everyone else, and I love what they do because it's needed in the hobby. We especially PSA. We need them in the hobby, right? I would just love for them to implement more technology.
Agreed. Now, Brian, I feel like I could keep you forever. I'm not going to do that because I'd like you to come back at some point in the future. So what I'm going to ask you here to close out, and it sounds like, we both come from a family with some brothers and sisters. We both have kids ourselves. So what do you think that we either should or could be doing today in the hobby that's going to have a lasting impact for, dare I say, my son who's only 10, his children. So in 20, 30, 40 years, what do you think we need to do collectively as an industry, as a hobby today, to make sure that we're laying the groundwork properly so that there's not just a hobby, but there is a thriving experience to be had by all in some point in the future?
Oh, it's a great question too. So, I think it's really about, I think more, I know this is going to sound weird, but it's more about attitude as a collective community, right? I really think that there, I don't know why it is, but there tends to be a little bit more negativity in our hobby and industry than most, right? And I would love to turn that around somehow and have everyone look at it positively, right? I just see it time and time again, and you probably see it too. It's like the first reaction is always negative, right? In this hobby, I can't explain it, but it's like it would be wonderful if someone said, you know what, I could see why that company is doing what they're doing, and they're trying to make something better, right? And the reason I say that is because I remember when we first launched, the negative feedback we got, Leighton, because we were starting off as with our grading play and our marketplace and so forth, is literally everyone saying we don't need another grading company. We don't
I
need,
kind of I'm
right?
laughing or smirking like this because I kind of remember.
Yeah.
And then of course I remember hearing about who you were and your background. I'm like, wow, this is someone who's trying to embrace technology and to help a space that I love. Sounds exciting. Let's see what they can do. But I
See, we need
agree.
more of you, Leighton. We need more of you. But I'll tell
Well,
you, it's like nine out of 10 comments were like, "Oh my goodness, what's this guy thinking?" And we don't need a grading company, and we don't need technology. It's like whatever it was. It's like I was non-welcome.
you are right. I think that one of the ways to solve that is to embrace folks that are positive about the space. So ourselves aside, folks like, and this is just, off the top of my head, Dr. Collectible or Coach
Mhm.
Co, Brendan
Love
is a
them.
friend of mine. And
Mhm.
there's kids who are influencers. So my point is, sometimes influencers in a space are looked at it in a negative way. But I think that some of the influencers in our space could actually learn from, let's say, like the Pokemon space or the
Mhm.
TCG space. So a few weeks ago, I went to 2 conventions in one day when I had my son on the weekend. And the first convention we went to was the first time we ever been to it. It was in Woodbridge, New Jersey, and it was 98.5% TCG. I literally felt like I was at an afternoon collectible barbecue. I
Wow.
mean, everyone couldn't have been nicer. Keep in
Yeah.
mind, I'm trying to learn too, because I'm trying to
Mhm.
learn about all the different things I don't know about TCG. And it's a lot. It's a
Right.
long list, Brian. But we went up to this one guy, call him 30-year-old-ish guy, and he tells my son about One Piece because my son loves that show. And he just started talking to my son as if he was also 30 years old,
Yeah.
meaning as a mature, respectful, and of course, my son was like enthralled, was hanging on every word that the guy was saying. And then the guy says something like, "Oh, well, I played in a tournament." My son's like, "What's a tournament?" And to further your point, I think one of the ways that we can change the narrative at conventions, and I have one this weekend in Philly,
Yeah.
is to make sure, and to be clear, it's a little bit easier for me now after my experience last week with the accident, is to make sure that we stop, we smell the roses, we take a
Mhm.
breath, and understand that we've likely all been in that person's shoes that's trying
Mhm.
to request more information from us or trying to get a card price, or who knows, they just want to know about the next guest we're going to have on trading card therapy.
Yeah.
But I agree, Brian, positivity will go a long way, not just in our hobby,
That's it
in
too.
our kids' lives, in the lives of our friends and family that are around us. But it takes work.
Yeah,
It
it
takes
does.
work.
It does. It's like, but I really believe it. I believe that. Look, I've always been an eternal optimist, right? And I really do look at things in a positive way most of the time. And I'll tell you, it's like if we bring that positivity, that optimism to our hobby, it's going to go a long way. It's going to bleed into our kids. It's going to bleed into a healthy industry and hobby for years to come.
Totally agree. Something that I'm doing this weekend to embrace that. So I have my son, and on
Mhm.
Saturday night, we're going out to dinner with these friends of ours that are also dealers.
Hmm.
and they've befriended Crosby. They all like One Piece. I'm actually like the outsider looking in. And instead of me saying, Brian, like, Cros, come on, we'll just go to dinner with daddy's friends that I regularly go to dinner with, or like
Yeah.
the sports guys, we're doing the opposite. So what I'm saying is we're open-minded and we're
Yes.
embracing the experience. And I believe
Love
if
it.
we all do that collectively, not only will the Philly show this weekend be better, not only will the next Burbank or West Coast card show next time be better, but collectively we're going to bring the hobby to another level. And whether it be you're just in it for fun, you're in it for the value of your collection or the thrill of the chase, or all of the above and more, I just think that we all collectively love the space. And you're right. Let's just try to show a little bit more TLC if we can. And if we all do that across the board, I
Yes.
think that the momentum that we're going to catch is going to be incredible.
Let's go, Leighton. I love that. And
Brian, thank you so much for tuning in
it
today.
starts with you, Leighton. So thank you for being so positive.
Oh, listen, I certainly try. You were a good role model. Thank you so much for joining us and telling us about Arena Club and a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey. I hope that we shared some words of wisdom with folks out there that are looking to start their own journey, whether it be in the hobby or as an entrepreneur themselves.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Leighton. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope to see you soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Okay, folks, that was Brian Lee, the founder of Arena Club, as well as LegalZoom and Shoe Dazzle, and some other wonderful businesses along the way. You can find Arena Club, of course, I believe at arenaclub.com. You can also find them at IG. They're fairly active on social channels. And as Brian was talking about card shows, him and I both being fans ourselves, Arena Club is often at some of the larger card shows around the country. So I encourage you to check them out. And if you have any questions about them, if they can't help you, or you feel like you want a little bit inside information as far as vintage goes, drop me a line. I'd be happy to help. This is Trading Card Therapy. I'm your host, the Dr. Leighton Sheldon. This is episode number 92. I hope you enjoyed it, folks.